what I try to do is, number one, I try to be very patient with my students, understanding that not everybody learns at the same pace. But understanding that everyone has a talent and everybody has, and that talent is useful for somebody else in the class and probably even for me as the teacher. So I try to be patient.
Give us an insight to a day in your life as a teacher at ADMI.
A day in my life as a teacher at ADMI. First, I walk up the flight of stairs. By the time I get to the top flight, I am completely worn out. So I go tear the watchman and stand there and talk to him a little bit, so that by the time I get to the reception, people don't know that I'm quite unfit and I'm just being silly. So anyway, when I get to the top, of course, one of my favorite people at ADMI is a security guy, because without him, there's no security here. So I go to him, and then Salimia also, Faith at the reception, a little bit of banter. Sometimes I find my students there, talk a little bit. Then I go to the faculty lounge to find out who's there. And if there's tea, then I drink a cup of tea. Then I go to my class. Like I said earlier, when I walk into the class, I normally find the students playing some of the music, and so I listen to whatever it is that's being played. Normally, when I walk in, they'll sort of shut the music, but I tell them no, play the music. So I really enjoy that first bit, listening to the music, and then I give them a little bit of feedback, my views on the music, and then we open up the previous assignment, whatever it was that they were supposed to have done during the week. Sometimes they've done it, sometimes they haven't, but we sit down and analyze whatever it is that has been done, and then come up with a plan with the students on what they need to do for the rest of the class. And every lesson is different. So there are some lessons where I sit down and actually do teach, and I try and keep that within the first 2 weeks of the semester, so that the students don't get bored. I want them to get into the practicals as soon as possible. So the first 2 weeks, I'm teaching them and having these conversations with them, hearing their various views on various things as well. And then we get into watching these films where we analyze the films, and that is normally one of the most exciting classes, where I show them these old films. Sometimes they suggest some of their favorite films, and we watch those films, and then I show them how much cooler my films are than theirs. And then we get into sort of analysis of the Foley, the ADR of those particular films, and then the afternoon class, this is like maybe around the third week. The afternoon class, we get into a little bit of multi-track recording, and we sit down and talk about how we be able to record, like, for example, an ensemble. I try and find out from the students how many of them play instruments, so that we know if we have a band in the class or not. Currently, my class has a band, and they're fantastic musicians. And every time that the class has musicians like that, it makes the class very easy. But the other classes, I had a class which had just 3 students, I think. This is I think it was my previous semester prior to this one. But what I found is that they had other strengths, like they were really good at mobilizing other students to help them to do their projects. And watching that come together is very interesting, because in the arts, not everyone becomes a music producer, not everyone becomes a performer, not everyone becomes a content director, not everyone becomes an editor. There are people that their jobs is to be what's called a producer. They just call so-and-so, come and do this project. They call someone else, come and do this. They say, okay, they find someone else who has money, who can be able to pay for those projects. And I know at least 3 of my students, and they're all women somehow, who were fantastic at mobilizing people. They ran their classes. And that, for me, I think is very hopeful. And it shows me how the future of the music industry and the arts and film industry and all that, really the art scene is in safe hands, and somehow it looks like it's in the hands of women. So they'll be our bosses. So it's very interesting to watch. And we've had these conversations even in the faculty lounge about how it seems like the women are very proactive, and it's very different from when I was getting into music production. There were absolutely no women music producers. So I think I sort of digressed. I went into other stories. So then we analyze whatever films, whatever multi-track recording we need to do. We talk about it, and then if we have enough time, maybe get into actually practical work on the multi-track. But normally by the next class, we've figured out whether we're going to film a scene or we're going to do shembeteng on an old movie, Usual Suspects, for example. And by that I mean we're going to do ADR in shembeteng, because for me, when they do the ADR, I want them to do it in the language that they speak. Though, of course, there are other applications where they could do Kiswahili Sanifu, but that's just not so much fun, especially for a cool school like ADMI. Then we'll explore various options, like, for example, how they can be able to employ AI in the classes without getting into plagiarism, for example. And I give them some real-life examples of where I myself have employed AI in my various projects. And it's always very interesting watching how when they hear about these projects and how much money, for example, there was involved in those particular projects, how their eyes really open up. And for me, that tells me that that's hope. So it's one thing to teach people how to do a thing, but it's another thing to show them, okay, yes, now you've learned how to do the thing, this is how you can also make money off it. And that, for me, is a part that I really enjoy. And then, generally, that's ideally how my day goes. And then, of course, there's the lunch hour where I sit in the faculty lounge and have these excellent conversations and have meals together, break bread with my fellow faculty members. And then the saddest time of the day comes, 4 o'clock, when now I have to leave the premises and go back to my home and then wait for the next week.
Love that. So, how does the school facilitate faculty development and innovation in teaching?
I'm a fairly new teacher at ADMI. But some of the experiences I've had as far as the school facilitating our growth, there have been workshops where they've brought people to teach us some of the things, like the way I'm talking a lot about AI. That's one of the things that we had a faculty session where we were being taught how we can be able to employ AI to make our teaching methods easier and more efficient and more effective as well. But also the access to softwares that we need, that is good for us, and the access to the equipment that we actually need to be able to pull this off. And also the school encourages us, especially with the clubs, for example, to experiment with these real life examples where, for example, we can be able to create concerts. One of the things that I do is I supervise an album launch for the SEM4s, and that's an opportunity for growth, not just for me as a faculty member, but even for the students, as far as opportunities for real life experiences are concerned. I don't know if I've answered that question properly, but iko na mathematic.
Because, so if your students could describe you in 3 words, what words would they be?
Yeah. I mean, it still feels that way. Okay. Let me answer it like from the perspective of what I try to project to my students. So what I try to do is, number one, I try to be very patient with my students, understanding that not everybody learns at the same pace. But understanding that everyone has a talent and everybody has, and that talent is useful for somebody else in the class, and probably even for me as the teacher. So I try to be patient. I also try to be as innovative as possible. I try to bring ideas and even gear. Sometimes that gear is not available in school, and if I'm able to, then I can be able to bring it so that the students can actually have an experience of touching and working with that particular bit of gear. Number 3, I try to create for them opportunities outside of the school. For example, every year for the past few years, towards the end of the year, I play piano on TV. Please don't go watch it. It's really shady. But I play piano on TV, on Citizen TV for Christmas, backing up various artists. And one of the things that I have to do is sort of create a small ensemble where I have 2 singers and a saxophone player or something, and myself on keyboards. What I did last year is I identified one of the students who was a fantastic singer and brought her on board to work with me on that particular project and paid her for it. That was creating a real work experience. And this is the thing, that student ended up working for Royal Media. Now she's there as an intern, and that's an opportunity for her, and I think it opened a door for them. So I like to sort of set myself up as a door opener for my students. One of the things that I even tell them is, like as they're working on the exam, for example, I tell them, I'm here in school, you know that I'm in school on Thursdays, and if you need any help with your exam, with your assignment, come to me and I'll help you to do whatever it is that I can be able to do. And the idea would be, I'd show them how to do the thing that it is they're struggling with, and then I can leave them to swim, because that's also how I learned. Somebody showed me physically. Then, what else? I try to be as friendly as possible. I'd like them to see me as their friend. Even as they see me as a teacher, they know they can come to me and say, hey, mode ni aje. Leo tunaenda klabu lakini kuko hivi. And I mean, if I can, I'll buy them lunch kwani iko nini. But I like them to see me as, I like them to see me as one of their friends, so that it's easier for them to communicate with me about everything that they're doing. And I think the result of that is that when, for example, I was given the example of the various projects that I've done outside, concert projects, where these former students see me as their colleague and as their friend. So we have very cordial, friendly conversations. Our jokes, we have our jokes going on, but then also it's professional, and each of us is delivering on our assignments.